Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Kyla, and today in this video we're going to talk about all of the worst books that I read this year. Now, of course, I have to start with a little disclaimer. These are just my opinions. Just because I didn't enjoy this book doesn't mean that I think it's horrible. It just means that there was something about it that I didn't enjoy. And if you did, if these are some of your favorite books or you did enjoy this book, that makes me so happy. This is what I love about books and booktube, is that you get all these different opinions, and this will help you kind of see my reading tastes, and if you have similar tastes, maybe it might help you decide whether or not you want to read these books. But I just wanted to put that out there before we start. And actually, I have to say that I had a really good reading year. There aren't many books on this list, and this list has a lot of variety to it. There are some books that I hated, but there are also some books that I was just really disappointed by. Like, I was just expecting more out of them and I didn't get that. And then there's some books that I DNF'd. So we have a well-rounded list here. I was gonna put these in different videos, but when I compiled the list, I realized how short it was. So we're just gonna do it all in this video, and let's just go ahead and get started. So we are gonna start with the books that I DNF'd this year. There were only 3 of them, and there might be one of them that I actually go back to at some point, but the other 2 are definitely DNFs. The first one is Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. I really wanted to enjoy this book. I was reading this for a book club that I participate in, and I, first of all, love the cover, like obsessed. It's a book that I would love to have on my shelf, but I feel like I can't because I DNF'd it. And this book I was curious going into. I had heard a lot of different opinions about it, some good, some bad. This follows a woman, and she is going back to her hometown, to her old house, and her mom's sick and they have a strange relationship, and some things start happening, and she has some realizations along the way, and it's just kind of a creepy haunted house-ish kind of story. I just really was not vibing with the main character at all. I was trying to get into it and really care about her story, but I really just didn't. I was very curious about the house. The writing in this book is really good. It's stunning. It's very descriptive. I loved it. But beyond that, I just could not get into it, and I didn't care about the characters and the story enough to continue, knowing that the ending was so divisive and that I might be let down. So I DNF'd it, and I'm actually really glad that I did, because I did watch the live show for the book club, and the way this book ended, I know that I wouldn't have enjoyed it. So I'm really happy that I DNF'd it, and yeah, so that's Just Like Home. And then the next one that I DNF'd was The Island by Adrienne McKinty. This one I know is I think a very unpopular opinion, and I have a few of those on this list, so bear with me, but I just really could not get into this. This book follows a blended family, and they are going on vacation while also simultaneously being a business trip for the dad, and they go over to this island and get trapped there, and some things start happening. I was listening to this on audio because I heard that was the best way to absorb this book, that the written style was a little bit boring, so to listen to it on audio because it had sound effects and stuff like that. But I just could not get past this main character and this family. Don't get me wrong, I love me some family drama stories. Those are some of my favorites, but this one just rubbed me the wrong way. I just didn't enjoy the main character. I didn't enjoy her relationship with her husband and the kids and just their whole dynamic. I just I was bored. I was bored to tears reading about them, and even when things started happening on the island, because I believe I made it to 40% of the way into this book, I just didn't care. I was just kill them all at this point. I know, that's not really how I was supposed to be feeling, but that's how I felt. I was like, I just can't, so I DNF'd it. And then the last one that I DNF'd was Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. I thought this was going to be a slam dunk. When I heard about this book, I was like, hands down, gonna be a 5-star. And that's mainly because of the cover. It has a house with chicken feet on it. Excuse me. The cover is amazing, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be like quirky, fun, very like House in the Cerulean Sea, Under the Whispering Door, like that kind of vibe. That's what I was getting. This book is about 2 siblings who inherit this house from their grandmother, and it does say that is a Russian folktale retelling, but I think there was just so much in like that I just wasn't in the know about, that I just wasn't connecting with in this story. I was very much invested in the siblings and their story and how that was unraveling, because they're very much estranged coming together after this inheritance, and I was really into that. And then also there's chapters from the house's point of view, which was so fun. But then in the interim, you're getting all of this back history on this folktale, because it's a Russian folktale retelling done in a Jewish way, which is fine, but I think I just was like, it was going way over my head and I wasn't as invested in that. I just found myself wanting to like skim past all of that, even though I know it was probably important to what was going to happen later. I was bored to tears during that, and it's a lot and it's very dense, so I just found myself skimming, and I was like, you know what, this is just not the right time for this book, so I put it down, moved on. Will I go back to it at some point? I'm not sure. Will I get rid of the book? No, because the cover is perfect. I'm going to save the 2 books that I hated the most this year for last, so you will just have to keep on watching to see what those are. There are 2 of them. I can't pick which one I hated more. Probably we'll see what happens. But let's dive into the books that I was most disappointed by. And the first one is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I knew going into this is probably going to be more of like a fun, lighthearted thriller, not to take it too seriously, just go in, have a good time. And I like thrillers like that. You know, I can get into thrillers like that. They don't all have to be super gritty and dark for me to enjoy them. I can enjoy a fun thriller. This one, however, literally nothing happened. I kept waiting for something to happen, and nothing ever did. This book is about Lux and her boyfriend who live in Hawaii, and he drives boats for a living, and 2 girls who are about college age ask him to drive them to this island that has apparently this like history to it, this kind of lore about it. Everyone knows that maybe it might have some like bad things that have happened on this island, and they're like, we want to go there for a week, can you drive us? And Lux is very much like, I don't know if I want to go, but I'm also not leaving you alone with 2 girls, so I'll go along as well. The 4 of them jet set out to this island, and when they get there, they see another boat there already, which is very strange because like it's very rare that people go there. It's very like small, tiny. You have to know exactly where it is to get there. So you're like, oh my gosh, there's some shenanigans that are gonna go down. And then I kept reading and kept reading and kept reading. And was like, these 6 people are just partying on an island, and I do not care. I want something crazy. I want something dark to happen, or just something to happen. But instead, I got 200 pages of just nothing. So I was very disappointed. The first 50 pages, like leading up to it, I was very interested in, and the last like 20 pages, I would say, were like, okay. But overall, I just gave this book 2 stars. Like, I just could not. I could not. It was boring, and I didn't really enjoy it. I'm so sorry if the lighting changes like a million times in this video. It is stormy out, but it's like weirdly also kind of starting to be sunny, so it just keeps going in and out. Anyways, let's move on to the next one, which pains me to say this actually, because I feel like this is such a classic at this point, and I might get a lot of like hate for saying it, but it's The Haunting of Hill House. Oh, that hurts. That hurts. I wanted to love this so much. I did. I was like, you know what? This is going to be a haunted house story that I love, because haunted house stories are very hit or miss. I feel like there's a lot of them that are misses, and I was like, you know, this is going to be the one. It's going to be the one that scares me. It's going to be creepy, especially because it has such a cult following to it. I wasn't scared at all. I wasn't creeped out in the slightest at all. And also, again, just nothing happens. I kept waiting and waiting for the haunting of Hill House to happen, and nothing does. And if you don't know, this book is about people who get invited to stay in this house to see if it's haunted. A typical haunted house story, shall we? I mean, obviously there's a little bit more that goes into it, but that's like the general premise of this, right? Let's come to this house, let's stay the night and see what happens. And nothing happens. Some maybe tiny little things start to happen, but like nothing that was like over the top or creepy. I just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's some like little things that happen at the end to kind of wrap the story up, but it was so boring. It was so boring, unfortunately. However, I will say the writing is amazing. I cannot fault it for that. The writing is absolutely gorgeous. The way this book is written and the descriptions of it, incredible, impeccable. Loved the writing. Was bored to tears during the story. So this one got 2 stars from me as well. The next one that I was disappointed by was Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. I gave this one 2 stars. I really enjoyed the first 50 pages of this, and then afterwards it just completely fell apart for me, and I did not enjoy it whatsoever. And the twists were so predictable, in my opinion. This book is about Paris, and she is found at the beginning of the book standing over her dead husband, and her husband is famous, so, you know, the police come, she's standing over him, they think she did it, and that part of it, I was like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? Are we going to get a fun little domestic thriller here, which I don't really enjoy that often, but it was very engaging, and I was like, ooh, where are we going with this? And then you were getting other chapters from a podcaster who was looking into this case that happened about 25 years ago, because the woman who is in jail connected to this case, named Ruby, is getting out of jail, or is trying to get out of jail, something along those lines. It's been a while since I've read this one. But anyways, there was some, flashback chapters going on or whatever, and just the way this story comes together was so obvious to me, and it was very obvious how these storylines were going to connect, and I just didn't really enjoy the chapters from the podcaster's point of view. I just found those really boring, and just how everything kind of unfolded, and then the ending, oh, come on. Absolutely not. I cannot get behind the ending whatsoever, and I'm not going to spoil it. Overall, while I was reading it, I was just getting more and more mad. I was bored, but I was also angry about how things were unfolding, and I was just like, oh my god, can this be over? If it wasn't for a book club that I was reading this for, I probably would have DNF'd it, but instead, I read it in its entirety, and I gave it 2 stars. Can you see the theme that's happening here? All of these ended up being 2 stars. This next one, I have a feeling, is going to ruffle a few feathers, but before I go into it, just know it pains me to say how much I didn't enjoy this one. It hurts my heart because I wanted to love this. The anticipation for this book was real. I thought this was going to be a hands down 5 out of 5 stars. It sounds like something that I would really enjoy, but unfortunately I didn't, and that was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, excuse me. Oh man, I don't even know where to begin. This book should be something that I love. The writing is gorgeous, incredible. I have no fault to the writing whatsoever. It's stunning. This should have been something that I really enjoyed. I love a circus story. Water for Elephants is one of my favorite stories, but I also just love stories that include circus themes throughout it. I just find that so fun and it's so interesting, especially when it's paired with magic, which also is very present in the story, which is why I was like, this is gonna be incredible. This is exactly what I want. It's gonna be fun. I'm here for it. And this book I've heard is very like high stakes, meaning like it's going to explode at the end. You are going to be shocked. It is going to be the anticipation is going to be real throughout it. And that just wasn't there for me. And I just did not connect with any of these characters. And there's a little bit of a romance happening throughout this, and I did not ship it whatsoever. Like, did not care. In this book, we are following two magicians who know they are going to have to compete at some point, but they don't know who each other is and what they look like. They just know that they're going to end up meeting someday, somehow, and they're going to have to compete against each other magically somehow, and one of them has to come out on top, the other one is going to die. Like, that's really in a nutshell what the story is about. There's also a little bit of an underlying storyline happening as well, as we set up the circus and as the circus comes to life and that kind of thing, which I really enjoyed that. I loved seeing the circus and the ideas for that come together and how each act was brought in. But the overall arching of this competition, like, I just did not care about these characters enough where I was like, they both could go at the end, and like, that means nothing to me. And I just wanted to love it so much more than I did, and it just really hurts my heart to say that I didn't enjoy it. I was extremely disappointed. I did give this one 2.5 stars because the writing is amazing. The atmosphere in this book is incredible. Like I said, you have the whole circus, the Night Circus, you have this whole circus coming together thing, and I also think that, like, you know, obviously having a little bit of magic in there just brings the atmosphere alive, but beyond that, bored. The next one is also one that I just had such high hopes for because I really enjoy her thrillers, and that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I thought I was going to love this. The guest list was fun. I just think her writing and her thrillers are really fun and interesting, and she always has a few different twists throughout, which I think is fun. And also there's always a cast of characters that kind of makes everyone a suspect, and I really enjoy that in books. However, this one just fell flat for me. I teetered between a 2.5 and a 3 star on this one, so it's definitely not the worst of the worst by any means. The first half of this book I was really intrigued by. In this book, we are following our main character who is going to stay with her brother in Paris in his apartment, of course, and when she gets there, he is missing. And everyone in the apartment building is kind of looking at her strangely, wondering why she's there, and also things start unfolding where you find out, you know, some things about how they interacted with her brother and that kind of thing, and they're just all acting a little bit too strangely. And so that just sounds like it would be fun, right? You have this whole cast of characters inside this apartment building, and like I said, the first half of this was good, and then as things started to unfold, I just found it extremely predictable, and I did unfortunately predict the ending, which I just thought was so obvious, and I know a lot of people were caught off guard by, and I'm not like saying that to brag. It's just so hard when you are reading something to be shocked by, and unfortunately that doesn't happen because it becomes so obvious to you. And just everything that happened in between, I just was not into. I didn't really like where the ending took a turn, and also there's like a few different romance situations happening in this book. Like, I just felt that they were completely unnecessary and didn't add anything to the book, and I think we could have probably done without them. So unfortunately, it just didn't hit the mark for me, which makes me so sad because I really did want to enjoy it. However, I will forever keep picking up Lucy Foley's books. I do think her thrillers are fun and exciting, so this won't put me off from reading from her in the future. It's just this one fell flat. We have one left before I dive into the two that I really hated this year, and unfortunately it's a memoir, and this doesn't happen to me quite often. I don't typically rate memoirs because I just feel like it's not appropriate for me to rate someone's life and their story, so I didn't rate this one, but I did just want to say that I was disappointed in it. I don't think it was done well, and that's Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing by Matthew Perry. I was highly anticipating this memoir. I love Friends. I knew that Matthew Perry had had a past. Obviously, if you saw the HBO special, a little bit of that came out, and then obviously since then he's talked about here and there about his story and his struggle with addiction. So I knew that was going to be kind of the main thing. Obviously in the title it says The Big Terrible Thing, so kind of knew that that was it going into it, but I still wanted to read it because I didn't, obviously I'm interested in him as a person and I really love Chandler on Friends, like that kind of thing, but this memoir was just straight chaos, and I do not know if it was done on purpose. I don't know if that was kind of the vibe that he was going for, but it was insane. Like, he would start a story in one chapter and then finish it 10 chapters later, and it was just very confusing and hard to follow. And I did listen to this on audio because I figured he narrated it, it's going to make it a little bit easier to follow, and also I just really like memoirs on audio, especially a person actually narrating it. But this one was just so hard to follow even with the audio, and I just don't know if anyone really edited this book or what, but it just was crazy. And I get, like I said, his story is crazy and you learn things about his life, things that I had no idea about, his addiction and how intense it got and that kind of thing, but also just the way he speaks in this book about certain people, about women, and just his addiction in general was just very off-putting in my opinion. And I knew going into this that it might take a little bit of the magic of Friends away, because obviously he talks about what he was going through while the show was filming and kind of how he looked so different at different points. So if you do not want the magic of Friends spoiled, I do not recommend reading this because it will spoil it. And now if you go back and watch it, you're just going to be looking out for those kinds of things, and that's just really disappointing in my opinion. Like I said, I did know that going into it, so I kind of had like a headspace, but after reading it, it's almost worse than I thought it was, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to look at Friends the same way, which is just so sad because it's one of my favorite shows. But again, just the chaos of this book, the way he speaks about people and the way he speaks about women, and just the way he decided to tell his story was very off-putting. I do think the message in itself is obviously so important, and I think it's amazing that he had the courage to come out and talk about it, especially when his addiction was so heavy and not something that a lot of people go through to that extreme. But my goodness, like, I don't even know what else to say other than just I'm disappointed, and it's not a memoir that I would recommend. Okay, now let's move on to the last two, which are the books that I actually like loathe. I really don't enjoy. There is one that I enjoy far less than the other one. It depends upon the day. Most days I hate these books equally, but today I think there's probably one that I hate more than the other. But anyways, again, this is just my opinion. If you enjoyed these, that I'm so happy for you. They just missed the mark for me. The first one, I think, is no surprise if you watched my vlog over the summer, and that is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This one also disappointed me, also saddens me, but also just more so made me really mad. I love Riley Sager. I will forever pick up his books. I want to know what he's writing about. I want to know everything. I want to read everything that he comes out with. I just wish that he could pick a different pattern, a different way about talking about women. I wish that this book gave any hint of what was actually going to happen at the end, I'm still bitter about it. Can you tell? This book went in a direction which is my least favorite thing in thrillers. I was, intrigued at the beginning. In this book, we are following our main character, Casey, I believe is her name. Yes, Casey. And she is recently widowed, so she goes to her family's lake house because she is on a bit of a rough path. And her family is like, you need to get out of town. So she goes to her family's lake house, and while she's there, she is spying on her neighbors. Very woman in the window. She is spying on her neighbors across the lake, and she witnesses something, and she is like, oh no. And then things start unfolding. This book just takes the typical Riley Sager direction, but then took a turn that I just hate. And if you do not want to be spoiled about what that is, I will put spoilers on the screen right here. I'm not going to go into deep spoilers, but I am going to say the plot twist that happens in this book that I didn't enjoy and the vibe of it. So if you don't want to know about that, I suggest you fast forward until you don't see spoilers on the screen anymore. But you good? Okay. The paranormal twist that this book takes, ridiculous. No, absolutely not. I do not mind if that happens in a thriller where you're kind of expecting it. You can tell the vibes right from the beginning. You can tell going into it that you are going to get a bit of a ghost story. This came out of freaking left field, and it is my least favorite plot twist in thrillers. I hate paranormal plot twists. Had I known that going into it, I wouldn't have picked this book up. I wouldn't have read it. I would have said, you know what, Mr. Sager, me and you, we're going to part ways on this one, but I'll catch you on the next one. But unfortunately, there is nothing in this synopsis that says it is going to go in that direction, and it just made me so mad. So mad, so mad. So, I did not enjoy this. Okay, we're going to stop talking about that now. Spoilers are gone. Yeah, just really, really did not enjoy the ending of this, where it went. I also thought, obviously we're following a typical Riley Sager pattern. There's a little bit of a romance happening, and no, absolutely not. These two never get together, would never last, would never work. It's just not gonna happen. So yes, this got 1 star. I don't think it's any surprise. I couldn't make it a DNF because it's Riley Sager. Like I said, we'll continue to read what he puts out, but no, hard pass. And then the last one, I don't have a physical copy of because why would I? I do like to collect my Riley Sagers, so I will keep that one, but this one, thank God I checked out from the library because I do not even want to look at it any more than I have to, and that's 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. Peter, what were you thinking? What in the world were you thinking? You are going to take The Beloved and Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, and even if you don't love that book, you're going to take that book that is loved by so many people, and you are going to turn it into complete trash. And you're going to say that is an Agatha Christie and Then There Were None retelling, so that if people have not read that book, they're not going to go to it after reading your book. How dare you, sir? So rude. This book, I can't even, where do I even begin? Awful. Just straight awful. The writing is trash. He uses the N-word at least 3 times in this book. Did the editor of this book not read it? Did you not think that that was okay? It was in reference to a previous book title that, I'm not even going to touch upon because no, it does not need to be brought up. But for some reason, Mr. Swanson decided that he needed to talk about it and drop the N-word 3 different times. Do you not know? I can't. Okay, we're moving on. that happened, right? And then just the entire ending of this book. So if you don't know, let me inform you. Like I said, this is a very and then there were none kind of retelling. So we have a list of people and, you know, we're crossing off names. Each of them are dying. We gotta find out why. The ending of this book is so stupid. So stupid. Like, it doesn't even make sense because the person that is doing it was involved in what happened in the first place. So you're gonna tell me that you're gonna kill all of these people, even though you were there and watched it and were involved the entire time, and you're gonna punish all of these people's families and all of this because of something that happened, but you were watching it, you did nothing to stop it, you were just at fault. I hate this book so much. I hate it. And unfortunately, it was my first Peter Swanson, which pains me to say because I know that he has other works that people love and that are really well done, but I do not know if I can get past this book enough to pick up more of his. So if there is a book that you think that I would enjoy that is done by him that like is absolutely I must get to, please leave it in the comments. It might take me a while because it's just a little salty in here and I just like cannot get past it, but oh my goodness. If there is one and you do think I would love it and you would think it would turn around my opinion of this man, please leave it as a comment. But otherwise, this one 1 star, honestly half a star, like no stars. No. I did rate it though because he deserves like the low rating on Goodreads in this, but absolutely not. And if it wasn't for a book club, I definitely would have DNF'd this, but like hands down worst book of the year, like par none. Absolutely. I would read this book again before even like going near that book again. Terrible. Well, we got real fired up there at the end, but that is all of the books that I did not enjoy this year, 2022. Luckily, like I said, it wasn't that many, so I'm happy about that. I did have a lot more 4 and 5 star books than I did low rating, so I'm extremely happy about the reading year that I had. I will be doing a video that is my favorite books of the year, and I have already done my most surprising books of the year, so if you haven't seen that, I will link it in the cards as well as in the description. Also save these in a playlist for you to come back and check in on later. I would love to know in the comments what your worst book of the year is, maybe with a little explanation, no spoilers though, and I also would love to know what your favorite book is. Let's like start with the negative but then end on a good note, like what was your worst but also your favorite. Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Again, sorry about the lighting changing a million times. I can't control the weather, but be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe while you are here. Turn on the bell so you never miss a video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!
With you and I, the future is bright.